Good morning from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This is Space Shuttle Columbia Launch Control. Our countdown for launch of Space Shuttle Columbia on mission STS-107 is continuing on schedule this morning. Launch remains scheduled to occur at 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time, and our launch opportunity window extends for about 2 hours and 30 minutes. At this point in the countdown, the external tank is fully loaded with its complement of cryogenic reactants. At about 3 o'clock this morning Eastern Time, we began operations to load the external tank with its 500,000 gallons of liquid propellants that are used by the shuttle's 3 main engines, and tanking operations were completed about 3 hours later. Currently, work at Launch Pad 39A, as well as operations here in the firing room number 3 of the Launch Control Center, everything continues as planned. No serious technical issues or problems are being worked or discussed by the launch team or by mission managers, who've also gathered in the firing room for this morning's launch. And we do anticipate an on-time liftoff of the Shuttle Columbia and the 7-member crew who at this time are in the process of departing their crew quarters for the launch pad. Within the past few hours, the launch team, with the assistance of the astronaut support personnel in the orbiter's crew module, have completed the pre-ingress switch list used to verify that the shuttle's cockpit switches are all in the proper position and configuration for the flight crew's arrival. This is a 16-day science mission. It's dedicated to various competitively selected and commercially sponsored experiments in space, life, and physical sciences. We have an international crew of 7 on board, including the first Israeli astronaut. The astronauts will be working 24 hours a day in 2 alternating shifts to carry out experiments in the areas of astronaut health and safety, advanced technology development, and Earth and space sciences. This mission will give more than 70 international scientists access to both microgravity environment of space and a set of 7 researchers for the full 16 days in orbit. Weather forecasters are continuing to indicate very favorable weather conditions today. We will have clear skies. Our temperatures will be in the low 60s at launch time. And our forecasters again are indicating a less than 10% chance, in fact a less than 5% chance of violating our weather launch commit criteria. Again, everything is going well and as planned with the countdown for the launch of Columbia scheduled for 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time on shuttle mission STS-107. At T-minus 2 hours, 45 minutes and counting, this is shuttle launch control. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 44 minutes and counting. We have had a number of activities already occur this morning with our 7-member astronaut crew. The crew has already been awakened for breakfast, and we will be showing that tape at this point. And we have our 7 astronauts seated at breakfast. Ilan, Ramon is there. He is the representative from the Israel Space Agency, first-time flyer, as well as David Brown. William McCool, who will be our pilot on this mission. And our commander for this flight is Rick Husband. Laurel Clark, one of the 2 females on this mission. Mike Anderson, and of course Chawla, rounding out the 7-member crew. This again was taken at about 6 o'clock this morning Eastern Time at the crew quarters. Astronauts have been awakened at different times. They're on 2 separate shifts on this mission to cover the 24 hours that we'll be doing scientific research. And we're out and back with a live shot at the launch pad. Again, everything is going quite well. Following the breakfast, the crew was given a briefing on our weather conditions, and again, the weather conditions here at Kennedy Space Center today are near perfect for our launch. At T-minus 2 hours, 42 minutes and counting, this is shuttle launch control. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours 35 minutes and counting. We do have another tape of a activity that was taken just about an hour ago of the astronauts being suited up, and we'll roll that tape at this time. Crew members are, of course, in their suit-up room. First one is Rick Husband, who is, of course, the commander of this flight on his second flight. He was selected as an astronaut back in 1994. He flew on STS-96 in 1999, spent 235 hours in space. William, or Willy McCool, is our pilot on his first flight. He was selected by NASA as an astronaut in 1996, and on this mission he'll be responsible for maneuvering Columbia as part of several experiments mounted in the shuttle's payload bay. Mike Anderson, he's the payload commander as well as mission specialist on this mission. This is his second flight. He first became an astronaut back in 1994. His first flight was STS-89 to the Mir space station. Laurel Clark, mission specialist on her first flight. She too became an astronaut back in 1996. Her first assignment was to work in the astronaut office payloads and habitability branch.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got stuff from 4 or 5.
David Brown, mission specialist, his first flight. He was initially assigned to support the payload development for the International Space Station. Chawla, mission specialist, and she was the prime robotic arm operator on STS-97, or excuse me, STS-87 back in 1997. This is her second flight. And Ilan Ramon, colonel in the Israeli Air Force. He's the prime crew member for the Mediterranean Israeli dust experiment, and this is his first flight. And back to our commander. Again, the astronauts are currently at the pad. This tape was taken about an hour ago as they were being suited up. The astronauts are currently on their correct timeline for launch on time today at 10:39 a.m. Back now with a live shot of the Space Shuttle Columbia sitting on launch pad 39A. Again, everything continues to go well. The astronauts have left their crew quarters and are making their way to the launch pad at T-minus 2 hours 31 minutes and counting. This is shuttle launch control. And we have one last tape that we'll be playing this morning of the crew activities today. That's the crew as they were preparing and walking out to the astronaut van, which will take them to the pad. This is a crew coming out of their crew quarters as a unit. on the third floor of the operations and checkout building. All of our astronauts, of course, are now suited, and they are getting onto the elevator that will take them down to the ground floor and to the astronaut van, which is waiting for them. And our astronauts coming out now as they are making their way to the astronaut van. Commander Rick Husband, Payload Specialist Ilan Ramon, Pilot William McCool, and Mission Specialist Michael Anderson, David Brown, Laurel Clark, and Kalpana Chawla. And we're back with live shot of the Commander Rick Husband as he is currently in the White Room at the launch pad making his preparations to enter the vehicle. Rick Husband is a colonel in the U.S. Air Force, and again he is the commander of this mission. He is the senior member of the red team. This crew of 7 are divided into 2 teams, the red team and the blue team, and each will be taking 12-hour shifts to conduct around-the-clock experiments. During this mission, he'll be maneuvering Columbia as part of several experiments in the shuttle's payload bay that will focus on the Earth and the Sun. And of course, as commander, he will take the stick and land Columbia back on the end of its 16-day mission here at Kennedy Space Center. And the NASA test director, Jeff Spalding, has given approval for the crew to begin entry into the vehicle. Again, this 7-member flight crew have arrived at the pad, and they are now in the process of entering the vehicle to occupy their assigned seats. Commander Rick Husband, the first to enter the orbiter, as is the tradition and the custom for the shuttle commander, and he will then be followed by his fellow crew members, each taking their seats in the orbiter's flight deck and on the orbiter's mid-deck. And we have a camera that is stationed on the flight deck as we can watch the crew members climb into the vehicle and take their seats. Of course, for the next 2.5 hours prior to the opening of the window, once they're in their seats, they will be basically laying on their backs in a prone position, and You can see husband climbing in somewhat difficult, cramped quarters there. He has astronaut support people that are assisting him, and they will continue to assist him and the other crew members until they are all completely strapped in. Once they are strapped in, they will do voice checks. In fact, once they are hooked up to the comm system, they will begin those voice checks with ground controllers here at Kennedy Space Center, as well as mission controllers at Johnson Space Center. So Commander Husband is currently on board, and we will be looking for the other crew members to follow shortly. And next to enter the vehicle will be the astronaut representing the Israel Space Agency, Ilan Ramon. Ramon is a colonel in the Israeli Air Force. He received a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Tel Aviv in 1987. Ramon will be situated and seated on the middeck. 3 of our astronauts will be on the middeck, and 4 will be on the flight deck. Back in 1997, as we see Ramon get on board the orbiter Columbia, back in 1997, the Israeli Air Force selected Ramon as a payload specialist, and then in 1998, he reported for his first training at the Johnson Space Center. He is the prime crew member for the Mediterranean Israeli Dust Experiment, or MEDEX, a multispectral camera that will measure small dust particles in the atmosphere over the Mediterranean and the Saharan coast of the Atlantic. He'll be working with a number of other experiments, including the ESA Advanced Respiratory Monitoring System, water mist fire suppression, and structures of flame balls at low Lewis numbers experiments, as well as other experiments including physiological and biochemistry studies. Ramon is a member of the Red Team and will be again the prime crew member for the MEDEX experiment. And he is currently taking his seat on the mid-deck. Back with a view of the White Room, we have our pilot, William, or as he likes to be called, Willy, McCool. This is his first flight, and he'll be a member of the Blue Team. McCool was selected by NASA as an astronaut in 1996, and he was initially assigned to the computer support branch. On this flight, he'll be responsible for maneuvering Columbia as part of several experiments that are mounted in the shuttle's payload bay. He'll also be working with experiments including the European Space Agency Advanced Respiratory Monitoring System, or ARMS, and he'll be assisting Ilan Ramon with the Mediterranean Israeli Dust Experiment.
OTC, SCP. Go ahead, SCP. May I speak to ASP, please? ASP OTC.
Go ahead, sir.
ASP, could I have you on R11, please?
Moving to R11. Ready on R11.
R11, supply H2O, galley supply valve switch closed, 15 seconds max hold until talkback closed and release.
That's complete.
Could I have your name, please?
A-Q-R-L-E-Y.
A-Q-R-L-E-Y, copy. Could I have you on ML86 Baker, please, ask?
Give me 1 second.
Copy. GMTC 30 is complete. Asp Hurley, H-U-R-L-E-Y. COFC, OTC. COFC, you gotta go to pick up with 533 per the clock, standing by on 535. Copy that.
Ready on ML86 for the F.
Copy. ML86 Baker, row A, main C. Supply H2O, galley supply, circuit breaker, open please.
That's complete.
And also on ML26. Oh, I need you on ML26 Charlie now.
Ready.
Supply H2O. Tank A supply valve closed. Tank vent valve to vent.
Those steps are complete.
Copy. I can release your ass. Thank you. FCP OTC on standby on step 251.
Yes, OTC, this is FCP. I can give you step 251.
Copy, thank you. OTC DPS 212. Go DPS.
Okay, GMT and MET adjust are complete. We're ready for IMU platform positioning.
Alright, GNC.
CNC copies.
Yes, that's step 552. For TC.
Copy.
So TC.
This is CGLS.
Standing by on step 504.
Say about another 5 minutes or so.
Copy. COC. Go ahead, COC.
I can give you 535.
All right, copy 533, 534, both complete, correct?
That's firm.
Okay.
CNC copy.
ASP OTC.
Go for the F.
Yes, sir. The RCS command status test is done. I'll give you a go to perform your Ingress switch reconfig and switch guard removal per your checklist.
Okay, we'll put that in work.
312.
Station calling.
SSCBSE, step 571 Biomed is going to be a not perform.
2571 not performed, thank you.
QC copy.
That's what you say. That's CGSS. I'll give you a go on step 562, 5 o'clock. Copy that.
OTC, CDR, com check.
CDR, OTC, copy com check. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Ray.
OTC, OVCC, go. Yes, sir. PLT is aboard. Copy PLT at 1307.
And with that, the pilot has now made his way through the crew hatch and is making his way up to the flight deck, where he will take a seat next to the commander, who is already on board and in the process of conducting voice checks.
Welcome aboard, Rick.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Jeff.
Now, once the commander and the pilot are seated in the flight deck, they will again perform a variety of communications checks and begin the process to reconfigure the cockpit control switches as necessary for the final hours of today's countdown. And the other crew members are in the process of taking their turns entering the vehicle, taking their assigned seats behind the commander and the pilot on the flight deck and on the mid-deck. The orbiter seating arrangement for Ascent for launch today will be on the flight deck, Husband, McCool, Brown, and Chawla. And then on the mid-deck, as we see here, will be Anderson, Clark, and Ramon.
I got you loud and clear also, Scorch. Good morning.
This view from our strap-in camera is of the mid-deck again, and we have two of our astronauts of the three that will be on the mid-deck, Ramon and Anderson, of course, have taken their seats, and they will soon be joined by Laurel Clark. Back in the white room is our mission specialist, David Brown, and he's taking his turn to be suited up and make his preparations to enter the vehicle. This will be his first flight, and he is a member of the blue team.
CMQC, OTC, call 561 complete.
Copy. QC on channel 162 for CGLS.
GLS, OTC.
This is GLS.
Do you want a QC?
Yeah, we'll need a QC on channel 162 when we begin a next.
All right.
QC copy.
And operations proceed to continue to assist our astronauts entering the vehicle today. All the astronauts have been at Kennedy Space Center since Sunday evening, and during their stay here over the past several days, they've been through the standard pre-launch activities, including flying in the shuttle training aircraft, going over their pad procedures, which they are practicing and putting into place right now, and taking part in orbiter and payload status briefings. They've been thoroughly briefed on today's weather conditions, which again are exceptional. We are not working any weather issues or concerns at all at this point.
Sir, step 305, I was given a time of 0840. Is that a hard time?
That's correct.
All right.
Our astronauts were awakened on schedule today and began their suit up and preparations to board the orbiter, all again on schedule. Members of our closeout crew are shown on the video monitors wearing their white coveralls, and the astronauts, of course, are dressed in the orange flight suits. Our closeout crew consists of both NASA and contractor personnel, and their primary job is to assist the astronauts with connecting emergency oxygen lines that can be pumped directly into their suits, as well as to assist them with being strapped into their seats and setting up their communication systems. The closeout crew members also will assist our prime crew for the mission as they have finished entering the Columbia. They will be the ones that actually conduct the closeout of the orbiter's crew hatch. And this will be done once all the astronauts are in and all their comm checks are complete. Make sure there are no troubles before they close the hatch.
CO at CO, to say. This is through after you go. Sir, step 548 through 551, where do you stand on that? .548 through 551 are to be completed after the drivers are turned on. All right, copy that. And that's in process now.
BC GNC.
At GNC.
I'll give you step 553.
Copy 553.
This mission will be carrying SpaceHab's Research Double Module, and it will be making its first flight on mission STS-107. The double module is a pressurized aluminum habitat that is carried in the Space Shuttle's cargo bay to expand the working space aboard the shuttle. Again, the mission is scheduled to last 16 days, and with an on-time launch today, we'll see a landing back at Kennedy Space Center about 9 a.m. on February the 1st.
At GLS.
Yes, sir. Need to reach you. Step 555.
Copy 555.
Step 2 interrupt notification will be activated momentarily and may cause re-enunciation of error messages at systems consoles for interrupt monitored parameters currently out of GLS limits.
OTCS, post-ingress switch reconfig is complete.
Okay.
And we can see the astronaut support personnel assisting with the crew member for making sure that everything is secure.
Okay, copy that.
Once the astronauts do reach orbit, zero gravity will affect anything that's not tied down or bolted down or strapped down, and so it's important that all aspects of the crew module, the flight deck, the mid deck, any activities, any items that the astronauts may have that could float away. It needs to be strapped to them or tethered in some fashion that it doesn't get lost once we do reach zero gravity and things start floating around.
RSRT OTC 132 for air to ground.
And the same applies to the astronauts on the middeck. We can see that the astronauts are laying on their backs. They will be in this configuration until we launch. And you can see hanging from the middeck lockers are straps that can assist the astronauts to adjust their position. If they need to pull up on that, they can. It helps them get in and, if necessary, get out. But at this point, everything is looking fine. We don't expect the astronauts to be doing anything other than their normal launch activities today. And launch is on schedule for 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time. 5 of our astronauts are on board. 2 are waiting to get on board.
And QC 572 is also complete. Tech number of 5621.
Check that. 4 of the astronauts are on board, and 3 are waiting to board right now. David Brown and Laurel Clark are seen here in a view together in the White Room as they await their turn to get on the vehicle. But again, everything is going well. No issues are being addressed. No technical problems are being discussed by the launch team and the firing room. Everything at the pad is going right according to plan. We're currently on schedule.
So I can give you 563 and 564. Copy.
And as is frequently discussed on launches here at Kennedy Space Center, the weather is often a topic of discussion, but today we don't expect to be even considering weather a factor in our launch attempt today. The weather forecasters have been predicting all along, and it's holding true that we're not looking at any weather constraints at all today. We just passed the T-minus 2 hours and counting mark. We're currently at T-minus 1 hour, 58 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. And again, everything is going on time and on schedule for a launch at 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time. Standing by now for the entry of David Brown into the orbiter. He'll be taking his seat on the flight deck. He'll be sitting directly behind William McCool, the pilot. And again, all is on schedule. At T-minus 1 hour, 58 minutes and counting, this is shuttle launch control.
NTD, PLT, com check.
PLT, this is NTD. I have you loud and clear. Good morning, Willy.
Good morning, Jeff. I have you the same. Houston, PLT, com check.
Hey, Willie, good morning. Houston reads you loud and clear. How us?
Good morning, Scorch. I've got you the same. OTC, caution warning, alarm volume will now be adjusted using parameter 99.
All right, copy that. ISL. ISL copy. TNC 026.
CNC?
Standing by on step 575.
I can give you 575.
All right. GNC OTC.
CNC?
Step 589 per the clock.
For the clock.
CP OTC.
That's where you go.
Step 590 per the clock. Copy.
OTC, caution warning, volume adjust is complete.
Copy, ask. ISL, you copy that? ISL copies. TC, that'll be 544 through 547.
Copy.
OTC, OVCC.
Go ahead, OVCC.
Yes, sir. MS1's aboard.
Copy, MS1 aboard, 1324.
And Mission Specialist number 1, David Brown, has just joined the other astronauts on board Columbia, and he is finding his way to his seat on the flight deck at this point. Space Shuttle mission STS-107 is the 28th flight of the Space Shuttle Columbia and the 113th shuttle mission to date, and it will give more than 70 international scientists access to both the microgravity environment of space and a set of 7 human researchers for the full 16 days of uninterrupted science. And Laurel Clark has entered the vehicle as well, and she is sitting on the middeck. This is the view from the flight deck. We have one more member to join the rest of the astronauts on board. A view of the middeck. We have seated all 3 astronauts.
Go ahead.
With Mike Anderson seated closest to the camera, Laurel Clark, and then Ilan Ramon.
OTC, DS1, contact.
Actually, a correction to that. The astronauts in the order that we're looking at them is Ilan Ramon is actually sitting closest to the camera.
OTC, copy contact. Good morning, Ilan.
Laurel Clark in the middle, and then
Good morning, Ray.
Michael Anderson to the back of the screen. Again, these astronauts are being assisted with the closeout crew members, hooking up, making sure everything, all of their components are attached to their spacesuits, making sure that the communications are up and operational, and initial comm checks are being conducted as the astronauts actually get in. They will conduct communications checks together with the ground, both here at Kennedy and at the Johnson Space Center, and then they'll do their internal comm checks as well.
DS1, this is MTD. I have you loud and clear. Good morning, Ilan. Good morning. I have you loud and clear. Houston, DS1, contact.
Good morning, Ilan. Houston has you loud and clear. How us?
Loud and clear, Scorch. Good morning.
OTC, MS3, contract.
MS3, OTC. Copy contact. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ray. NTD, MS3, contract.
MS3, this is NTD. I have you loud and clear. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Jeff. Houston, MS3, contract.
Good morning, Mike. Houston has you loud and clear. How us?
Morning, Scorch, have you loud and clear.
QC, CFCP. Go ahead, FCP. You get a CMQC on 153. CMQC, OTC.
QC copied 153.
This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 1 hour, 45 minutes and counting. The remaining crew members of mission STS-107 are in the process of finishing entering the orbiter. We have all but one that have taken their place in the vehicle, and Kalpana Chawla is in the process. She is in the white room right now and awaiting her turn to enter the orbiter. Command and control of Columbia will be the primary mission and tasks of our commander, Rick Husband, and our pilot, Willy McCool. They are currently seated in the vehicle and are in the process of performing communications checks and getting final association with switches and controls around them on the flight deck. Much of their training in Houston has been spent in simulators that exactly duplicate the cramped quarters of the orbiter's flight deck, so they are very familiar with every switch and control on the flight deck and are now in the process of double checking to make sure everything is properly configured for our launch today. All is continuing to proceed smoothly here at the Launch Control Center in firing room number 3. External tank propellant checks have been conducted and are reported to be at their proper levels. The supercooled fuels are constantly being replenished due to normal warm-up and boil-off, and stable replenish remains in effect until about 40 minutes prior to launch. NASA's 2 solid rocket booster recovery ships are reporting on station as well. They're at sea about 140 miles offshore in the Atlantic Ocean. The Freedom Star and the Liberty Star ships are now performing an electrical search of the impact area to ensure that the area is clear of all non-authorized vessels. The Coast Guard is conducting similar checks. At T-minus 30 minutes prior to launch, the 2 SRB recovery ships will be located about 7 miles from the predicted impact points of the solid rocket boosters.
Line item 354 has been removed from the consent list.
The booster recovery operations take about 5 hours once the recovery ships reach the boosters, and the boosters are bobbing in the vertical position until our scuba divers from the ships are able to actually plug and drain the water from the core. Once the boosters are configured in a horizontal position, they are readied for the towback to hangar AF located at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. And then once back at the hangar, the boosters are refurbished and reused on future shuttle flights. At this point, the ground launch sequencer computer program has been started at the integration console here in the firing room. Engineers are beginning to set up the specific tables in the launch processing system that the ground launch sequencer will use as its guideline for allowing the launch countdown to continue. All personnel except those few who are needed at the pad this morning have been sent back to the fallback areas as launch operations for Columbia's flight today continue on schedule. Here in firing room 3 and on the Space Shuttle Columbia, everything continues as scheduled for launch today.
Lois, you'll have a go for step 592 per the clock. Copy.
Columbia's 16-day mission is dedicated to a mixed complement of competitively selected and commercially sponsored research in space, life, and physical sciences. Our international crew of 7, including our first Israeli astronaut, will be working 24 hours a day in 2 alternating shifts to carry out experiments in the areas of health and safety and advanced technology development, as well as Earth and space sciences. When Columbia is launched from Kennedy Space Center, it will carry a Space Hab Research Double Module in its payload bay. This module is offers a pressurized environment that is accessible to the crew while in orbit using a tunnel from the shuttle's mid-deck. Our 7 astronauts will work around the clock to complete a multidisciplinary research program that involves 32 payloads and 59 separate investigations.
ECL, let's see.
Go ahead.
We're going to pick up with step 305 here in 30 seconds.
Sure, we can do it.
Okay. Ask OTC.
Go ahead.
I'm going to need you on panel L1A2, please.
I'm on the mid-deck, sir. It's going to have to wait just a second.
Copy that. CDR, OTC. OTC, CDR, go ahead. Yes, sir. Since the AST is down on the mid-deck and you're in a convenient spot, we'd like you on panel L1A2, please. Okay, CDR is ready on panel L1. ECL is all yours.
Copy. On panel L1, flow prop valve, loop 1, and 2 talkbacks. We want to verify what the talkbacks are.
And I'm sorry, if you could repeat that.
The talkbacks for the prop valves for the Freon loop. One should be in payload. Just want to verify. And 2 interchanger.
That's a firm.
Copy.
And that's a firm. We've got loop 1 in payload and loop 2 in interchanger.
Copy. Copy that, CMTC.
That's firm. She copied.
Okay. And see on L1, flow prop valve, loop 1, switch to interchanger.
Okay, we're taking flow prop valve loop 1 to interchanger, and we have a good talk back. That's complete.
Copy. And we have GMT at 1341.
Copy.
And ask back on panel L1.
CDR is ready on L1.
We got to repeat this stuff here. Flow prop valve loop 1 switch to payload talkback.
Okay, loop 1 to payload, and we now have a payload talkback. And on L1, that's complete.
Copy, and I can verify step 307. Now back on L1, flow prop valve loop 1 switch to interchanger talkback.
Okay, we copy. Taking loop 1 back to interchanger. And on L1, the flow prop loop 1 is in interchanger with an interchange talkback.
Copy, and I can verify 309. On L1, flow prop valve loop 2 switch to payload talkback.
Okay, that's in work. And that's complete with a good payload talkback.
Copy. I can verify 311, and on L1, flow prop valve loop 2 switch to interchanger talkback.
That's in work. And that is complete with a good interchanger talkback.
Copy. And I can verify 313, and ATC work complete.
Copy, thank you. And all stations on air to ground, verify all systems are ready for crew module closeout.
OTC, OVCC.
At OVCC.
Yes, sir. MS2 is aboard.
Copy MS2 at 1343. CMTC, OTC, FCP. FCP. I give you 591. Up to 591.
OTC, MS4, com check.
MS4, OTC, copy com check. Good morning, Laurel.
Good morning, Ray.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 1 hour, 34 minutes and counting. And the last of our 7 astronauts has now entered the vehicle, and Chawla is in the process of getting into her seat on the flight deck.
MS4, this is NTD. I do have you loud and clear, and good morning, Laurel.
Good morning, Jeff. Houston, MS4, com check.
Good morning, Floral. Houston has you loud and clear. How us?
Loud and clear, good morning, Scorch.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. As soon as you get everybody strapped in, I'll give you a go to close out the crew module flight per your checklist, inspect the crew module for any non-flight items, remove and report any items found.
Wilco, and we'll put that in work in just a few minutes, sir.
QC 594.
Copy.
OTC, OVCC. Go ahead, OVCC.
Yes, sir. Can I get a CMQC and a channel for my NASA Q to begin this TIR?
CMQC, OTC.
Go to sir.
Yeah, and OVCC, I assume you want channel 242?
That'll do.
QC copy 242.
OTC, MS1, com check.
MS1, OTC, copy com check. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Ray. I've got you loud and clear.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 1 hour, 30 minutes and counting. Everything continues to go well as our launch team works to finalize all aspects of preparations for the launch of Space Shuttle Columbia on mission STS-107 today. Our launch time is at 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time with a window that extends for about 2.5 hours. At this point in the countdown, the booster test conductor is in the process of verifying that the chamber pressures in the solid rocket motors are at the appropriate levels.
MS1, this is NTD, and I have you loud and clear. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Jeff. I've also got you loud and clear. Houston, MS1, com check.
CMQC on 212.
Good morning, Doc. Houston has you loud and clear. How us?
Loud and clear also. Good morning, Scorch.
Air-to-ground voice checks are being conducted between the crew and the mission managers in the firing room, launch directors, and flight directors at Johnson Space Center. And crew cabin closeouts are starting to wrap up now that all 7 astronauts are on board Columbia, waiting for a launch coming up here at 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time. All checks of the payload's instruments have been conducted and completed, and engineers and managers are reporting no technical issues in the payload community.
And CMQC OTC, let's make sure we've got a QC on channel 242.
That is affirmed. She said she's calling and not getting an answer. Let me check with her.
All right, they're working the other side now. Step 656.
Copy.
GNC OTC.
GNC,
Step 657.
we're ready. 657.
Copy. problem as before. Yep.
GLS channel 212.
So GLS.
Yes, sir. Step 685. GLS initialization is complete.
2685, thank you.
CNTC.
OTC.
Line item 355 has been added to the constraints list, constraining 16-1063.
That's OTC.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir, we're standing by on a con check from Casey.
Roger that.
OTC, MS2, com check.
MS2, OTC, copy com check. Good morning, Casey.
Good morning, Ray. NTD, MS2, com check.
MS2, this is NTD. I have you loud and clear, and good morning, Casey.
And I have you loud and clear also. Good morning, Jeff. Houston, MS2, com check.
We must be saving the best for last. Good morning, KC. We have you loud and clear. How us?
And I read you loud and clear also, Scott. Good morning.
CDR, OTC. OTC, CDR, go ahead. Yes, sir, if you would verify each of your crews ready to proceed with astrocom checks per step 598. Okay, I'll give you a call. And all stations on 212, getting ready to pick up with astrocom checks. Any conversation on OIS channel 212 during astrocom check will be heard by the crew. Channel should remain silent except for emergency calls.
MS4.
that. And Columbia will be picking up air-to-ground comm checks on air-to-ground 1. And flight crew during the astrocom checks, adjust your appropriate volume control. For comfort, do not change audio panel switch configuration. And crew, this is the OTC on air-to-ground 1 comm check. CDR, loud and clear.
DLT. MS1.
MS2.
MS3.
MS4.
PS1. Okay, copy that. That's air-to-ground 1. Let's go air-to-ground 2. You are loud and clear.
DLT. MS1.
MS2.
MS3.
MS4.
PS1. You are loud and clear.
DLT. MS1.
MS2.
MS3.
MS4.
PS1. PC, CCSH. And CMQC OTC, that's 602 through 611.
Copy.
Columbia Houston for Rick and Willy, configure for air-to-ground 1 comm check.
Yeah, we'll put that in work. Houston, Columbia, we're configured for air-to-ground 1.
Columbia Houston for Rick and Willy, comm check on air-to-ground 1.
CDR, loud and clear.
DLT, loud and clear.
We read you loud and clear also. You can now configure for air-to-ground 2.
That's in work. Columbia, we're configured for the Simo voice check.
We copy. For the entire crew, comm check.
CBR, loud and clear.
PLT. MS1.
MS2.
MS3.
MS4.
TS1.
Well done. We read you all loud and clear. This completes the air-to-ground voice checks.
QC 625 complete, 626 complete.
Copy.
And all stations on air-to-ground Astrocom checks are complete, and 2 and 2 is available for normal use.
OTC ASP. All non-flight items are removed from the crew module. I'm ready to pull the fuel cell PCM circuit breaker and terminate comm.
Okay, copy that. QC, that'll be 595, and ASP, I need you on 019.
Ready on 019.
For the Ascent mini camera, I need TV power switched on.
That's complete, sir.
Okay, copy that. 596, 597.
Copy.
ASP, OTC.
Go ahead, sir.
You took care of the switches on A15, is that correct?
I'm ready for the switches on A15 and ready to pull the circuit breaker on ML86 Bravo.
Okay, you'll have a go on A15 at your discretion on ML86 Bravo. Road Delta, Main A, Pyrojet System A, Fuel Cell PCM, circuit breaker to open.
Hey, that's in work.
JRPS, OTC.
JRPS.
You and SDC, step 636, SCMS is being powered down.
We copy.
QC copy.
OVCC, OTC. Go ahead, sir. Okay, I'll give you a go on 637. You got to go to Ingress crew module verify, ready for hatch closure. Copy that, didn't work. PVD, OTC.
What's DVD?
Step 672 and 671, I assume those will be not performed. I think we got both leewards open, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, QC not performed, 671 and 2.
Copy.
73 and 74 also not performed.
Copy.
OVCC, OTC.
OTC CGNC.
GNC.
If you step 684, IMU gyro compass is complete. IMUs are in alignment, Mason and McCool.
Copy 684.
QC copy.
OTC, OVCC.
Go ahead, OVCC.
Yes, sir. We're starting our ops support setup 20 for closing the hatch now. And we are out of the crew module.
Okay, copy that. And QC, that'll be step 675.
Copy.
And OTC, OVCC.
OVCC, OTC, go.
Yes, sir. Do I have a go to close the hatch?
You have a go to close the hatch.
Copy that. And in work and going to 142 with AFM.
Copy that. Standing by on your completion call.
Copy that. I'll be right back. RPS.
This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 60 minutes and counting. And everything continues to go on schedule today as the closeout crew is preparing to close Columbia's hatch and seal it. And once the hatch is closed and sealed for flight, the astronauts will be directed to start standard crew cabin leak checks to verify that the seal is indeed tight. Once sealed, the commander will oversee the pressurization of the cabin to flight pressures. Over the past few minutes, the Eastern Range Safety Hold Fire checks were started. This is a test that's designed to verify the ability of the range safety officer to halt the countdown during the final seconds prior to launch if an emergency should arise. Everything continues to go well for launch of Space Shuttle Columbia on mission STS-107. Today's launch represents the 28th flight of the Shuttle Columbia and the 113th shuttle flight overall in NASA's Space Shuttle program. Columbia will be placed into a 150-mile-high orbit at an inclination of 39 degrees to the equator. This mission is expected to last 16 days, ending with the landing back here at Kennedy Space Center on February the 1st at about 8:53 a.m. Again, at this time, all 7 crew members are on board the Shuttle Columbia, and they are in their assigned seats. Communications checks have been conducted, and standard cabin pre-flight checks have indicated that nothing is out of the ordinary. The pre-flight alignment of the inertial measurement units has begun, and this IMU alignment is scheduled to be completed during the T-minus 20-minute hold. At this point, we are going to play a tape that was compiled of the preparations to prepare Columbia for launch today. Columbia in the orbiter processing facility undergoes a number of different checks, as does each vehicle, including polishing of the windows on the crew compartment. The windows, of course, have a protective sheeting on them. Also, the workers install the Space Shuttle's main engines. There are 3 main engines, and they are removed and checked, and then other engines installed. These engines, of course, are reusable. Since Columbia its mission has been delayed a number of times, we did roll it back and forth to the vehicle assembly building a number of times for storage, as we were making room in the orbiter processing facilities for the other vehicles to be processed for their missions. And then once we achieved and reached a launch date, the vehicle was rolled into the vehicle assembly building on December the 9th, and then about a week later it was rolled out to launch pad 39A, where it now sits. This trip from the vehicle assembly building to the launch pad takes about 6 hours to complete. Also, since we arrived at the pad, we conducted a terminal countdown demonstration test where our 7 astronauts came to Kennedy Space Center for about 3 or 4 days to go through launch day activity rehearsals. And that concludes this tape. We do have one other tape that we will rack up and begin playing momentarily. That is a flow tape of the payload activities for this mission STS-107.
ECL, OTC, you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. CDR, OTC.
FreeStar, which stands for Fast Reaction Enabling Science, Technology, and Research, underwent its processing at Kennedy Space Center. FreeStar payload contains 6 experiments and includes an array of meteorological, communications, and student experiments. During the processing over the past several months, members of the STS-107 crew came to Kennedy Space Center to interface with the module before it was stacked and placed inside the payload bay of the Space Shuttle Columbia.
Copy that. On the standard switch pin. Now again,
The extended duration orbiter pallet was also placed in the payload bay of Columbia. This pallet contains the additional liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen allotments that are used by Columbia's fuel cells. This extra fuel is necessary to support Columbia on this 16-day science mission. The SpaceAv Research Double module is also on board Columbia in the payload bay. It consists of a module itself, a tunnel for astronauts' access from Columbia's cockpit, the tunnel adapter assembly, and the forward extension. The module contains over 100 experiments, including the STARS program, which contains experiments by students from 6 different countries around the world. The pressurized Space Hab Research Double Module will make its maiden voyage into space aboard Columbia. Space Hab single and double modules outfitted for research or logistics have flown on 15 different space shuttle missions to date. Everything continues to go well with our countdown. Space Shuttle mission STS-107. Our 7 astronauts are on board. They will be working around the clock to complete all of this research involving over 32 payloads and 59 separate investigations. As our closeout crew continue their operations to secure the orbiter's crew hatch, we are at T-minus 53 minutes 40 seconds and counting. This is shuttle launch control.
CCME,
Go ahead.
step 711 to you.
Copy, going to 128.
Do you have the D with that as well?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you can. CDR on panel 01, need to get a cabin pressure reading.
One pressure reading is 15 psi.
DCL copies, thank you. OTC CL212.
Oh.
Let the crew know we're getting ready to pressurize.
Okay. CDR? Go ahead for CDR. VCL's getting ready to pressurize the cabin. Okay, we copy, thanks.
OTC, CCMA, back on command channel.
Copy, CCMA. O to CDPS. DPS.
Yeah, so like concurrent pick up at 773.
Give you go for 773. Copy, thank you.
See, copy.
DPS 212.
DPS launch countdown sequence activation is complete. That's step 778.
Copy all.
OTC CTLS 212.
Go.
Step 767 GLS mainline activation is complete. That's steps 762 through 767 with an op perform on 764.
Copy.
Copy.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 40 minutes and counting in our launch countdown time. Where just a few minutes ago, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding was informed that the Eastern Test Range had completed its command tests and a Shuttle Range Safety Systems closed loop test was performed. This test simply verifies the paths of the destruct signals to the range safety ordnance located on the solid rocket boosters and at the tops and bottom of the external tank. And it's also used to check the status of the range safety signal. Commander Rick Husband is in the process of preparing for a scheduled cabin vent test. Also, activation of the S-band communication systems to the high power mode is being completed at this time with all systems reporting no problems. Inertial measurement unit calibrations are continuing, and activities to close the crew hatch will soon be completed. Again, all 7 of our astronauts are on board Columbia. The hatch has been closed, and we are making final preparations to make sure that it is sealed tightly and that there are no issues with the hatch itself. After that is completed, our closeout crew members will depart the pad. The ground launch sequencer mainline computer program has also been activated, and it is now processing pertinent data. This program monitors all key commands and systems prior to assuming control of the countdown at the T-minus 9-minute point.
CDR.
Here in the Launch Control Center, Firing Room 3, the launch team continues to perform its series of well-planned and charted-out procedures, each of which is required and necessary for a successful launch. Again, that launch time is at 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time. Over the next few minutes, as we close out operations in the White Room, our launch team will begin pressurizing the gaseous nitrogen tanks in the orbital maneuvering systems. Again, all continues on schedule here at Kennedy Space Center as we continue toward the countdown to launch Columbia on Space Shuttle mission STS-107. Launch time at 10:39 a.m. Eastern Time. At T-minus 37 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting, this is Shuttle Launch Control.
That is affirmed.
Copy. And OTC CDR passed BFS transfer prep. Steps are complete. Okay, copy that, Rick. Thank you. DPS OTC?
DPS 212.
Step 803.
Copy, thank you.
QC copy.
CWOS OTC. OS. I'd like to go ahead and pick up the OMS GN2 press if that's okay. We're about 6 minutes early. Copy. CDR OTC. OTC CDR, go. Sir, if you would, perform OMS GN2 press. That's in work. DC CDR OMS GN2 press is complete. Copy that, QC 809 through 811.
Copy.
So 818. OTC. Go ahead. I'd like to go ahead and pick up the low spray boiler GN2 supply activation early. Any problems with that? No, go ahead. PLT OTC. OTC PLT, go ahead. Willy, I'll give you a go to perform your water spray boiler GN2 supply activation. In work. OS verified, step 812, please. Both verified. Thank you. OTC PLT water spray boiler GN2 supply activation is complete. Okay, thank you. QC 814-815, HYD verify 816, please.
OTC ECL 212.
Go ECL.
Yeah, well, crew now we're getting ready to remove the probe, so they'll probably get a master alarm and Claxton.
Okay, copy that. CDR OTC.
OTC, CDR, go.
Yeah, did you copy? They're getting ready to remove the pressurization probe out of the hatch. You'll probably get a klaxon.
Okay, we copy, thanks.
HYD OTC.
Go ahead.
Verify step 816, please.
You verify that?
Thank you. Go.
Line item 352 is gone.
Okay, that's my last constraint, correct?
It is affirmed.
EPD OTC. CPD. Step 822, are you ready for that? That's firm. I'll give you go on 822. Copy. OTC.
CQS.
Yes, ma'am, if you would verify step 779.
Stand by. OTC, I'll give you that step.
Copy.
OTC copy.
ECC OTC. Go ahead. Yes, sir, if you would continue with your white room closeout and verify the chamber ECS air damper is open and the orbiter ECS air damper closed.
And I have 818 is open and 817 is closed now.
Copy that, QC 797.
QC copy.
And I'm 2005.
Go EPD.
That's their 823 through 826 complete.
Copy.
This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 30 minutes and counting. At this point in the count, the post-launch inspections and safety teams are being assembled at the A11 roadblock, which is located southeast of the vehicle assembly building and about 3.5 miles from the Shuttle Columbia at Launch Pad 39A. Also, once the white room closeout crew is down off the pad, which should be in the next few minutes, the fixed service structure elevator will be locked into place on the ground. In the unlikely event the astronauts have to make a quick escape from the vehicle and leave the pad, a set of sidewire baskets are available on the same level as the crew access arm, and these baskets will be used to deliver the crew to the safety of a bunker several hundred yards from the shuttle. At this point in the count, the orbiter maneuvering system gaseous nitrogen tanks are being pressurized. Gaseous nitrogen is used to operate the valves in the reaction control system to permit hypergolic propellants to flow into the orbital maneuvering system engines. These small thruster engines are used during orbit to maneuver and steer the shuttle once in space. Also, the shuttle landing facility's navigation aid status has been verified, and is reporting no problems. The pre-flight checks of the orbiter's master events controller is complete. This is the software package that relays commands from the orbiter's computers to the explosive charges on the booster's hold-down bolts. The official forecast that was just presented to the launch director indicates that we have absolutely no concerns. There are light winds at about 8 knots at the pad. We are expecting few clouds at the launch time, coming up in about 50 minutes, and those clouds will be at about 4,000 feet. Overall, there is less than a 5% chance of violation, and we are currently green on all constraints. In other words, we have a go forecast. Activities are continuing to go well here at the firing room. The closeout crew is being cleared in the next few minutes from the launch pad. Commander Rick Husband has performed his voice checks, and he is in the process of updating the altimeter settings in the cockpit.
Copy, Rick, on page 2-4, starting with the no-com.
Everything continues to run on schedule for today's launch of Space Shuttle Columbia. Coming up in the next 7.5 minutes will be our next milestone, which is the standard built-in hold at the T-minus 20-minute mark. This hold at T-minus 20 will last for 10 minutes. At T-minus 27 minutes and counting, this is shuttle launch control.
Okay, we copy Presta ATO at 11.6, Presta MECO at 13.7, and single engine press 104 at 18.2.
Rick, that was a good readback. Your next update is on the facing page, page 2-5. For your throttle bucket update, PC to 72 will be 0.85 Mach. PC to 104 will be 1.16.
Okay, we copy PC at 72 at 0.85 and PC back up to 104 at 1.16.
Good readback, Rick. Next, it'll be in the Ascent checklist, page 6-2 and 6-3. I'll wait till you have that page out and ready to copy.
Houston, we're ready to copy on 6-2.
Rick, the only update on these two pages, 6.2 and 6.3, is for aft quantity 1. It will be 9.4% vice 9.6.
Okay, we copy aft quantity 1, 9.4% as opposed to 9.6.
Good readback, Rick. And lastly, flip back to page 8-7. I'll give you your first stage updates.
Okay, Houston, we're ready to copy on page 8-7.
Rick, lower left corner for max rates in first stage. Starting with roll, expect 2 degrees per second at 60 seconds. Pitch 1 degree per second at 70 seconds. And yaw will be less than 1 degree per second. And trajectory lofting in second stage is none.
Okay, we copy roll 2 degrees per second at 60 seconds. Pitch 1 degree per second at 70 seconds. Yaw less than 1 degree per second. And trajectory lofting second stage none.
That was a good copy on all, Rick. That completes your Ascent checklist updates.
Chloe, thank you, Houston. stations on 2 and 2. Orbiter systems verify program software. Report only if discrepant.
ATC, CO 212.
BCL.
I give you step 768 this time.
Copy 768.
We're ready for 770.
QC 767, 8 and 9, 77.
Copy.
CDR OTC.
OTC CDR, go.
Yes, sir. I'll give you a go to perform your cabin vent redundancy configuration.
That's in work.
OTC CTLS 212.
Go.
I'll give you step 828.
Copy 828.
And OTC CDR cabin vent redundancy config is complete.
Okay, copy that. ECL,
Copy.
that's 772. ECL standby on 781.
I copy on there.
OVCC OTC.
Go ahead, sir.
You guys got all the terror panels on?
That's the firm. We're just finishing the last torque.
Okay, can you verify part C is complete then? Lock support setup 2.
That's the firm.
Okay, QC by 782.
Copy.
Clock will hold at T-minus 20 minutes in 1 minute and 25 seconds. On. CNTD.
This is Shuttle Launch Control, and we are approaching our hold at T-minus 20 minutes, about 30 seconds away at this point. The Director of Payload Management and Operations at Kennedy Space Center has pulled the principal payload managers, and they have all reported in and are ready to support launch today. And our 7 astronauts who will fly today aboard Columbia are in their seats and preparing for the final phase of our countdown. The astronauts themselves are reporting to be ready to fly. We're just a few seconds away from entering our first of 2 built-in holds. 3, 2, 1, and we are T-minus 20 minutes and holding.
Duration of hold will be 10 minutes.
During this period, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding will ask members of the test team to verify that the correct computer software has been loaded into the computers for the remainder of our count. Also during this hold, we'll verify that their pre-flight inertial measurement unit alignment has been completed. The landing and recovery director will soon ask if the shuttle landing site is ready and configured for launch, and also a readiness check of the transoceanic contingency sites will be made. A final check to see if the booster recovery ships are ready and on station in the Atlantic Ocean will be made in the next few minutes as well.
CDR OTC.
At this time, we will go to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas for a brief update by Public Affairs Officer Rob Navius from Mission Control.
This is Mission Control Houston at T-minus 20 minutes and holding. Flight controllers belonging to the Ascent team have been on console since about 3:30 this morning, monitoring Columbia systems in preparation for the first shuttle launch of the year. The Ascent team is led by Flight Director Leroy Kane with the assistance of astronaut Charlie Hobaugh, who is the spacecraft communicator or Capcom for today's launch. Hobaugh will be talking directly to the crew during Columbia's 8.5-minute ride to orbit. He's joined on console by astronaut Dwayne Carey, who is monitoring weather conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. Carey is in direct contact with Chief Astronaut Kent Rominger, who is flying the shuttle training aircraft around the vicinity of the shuttle landing strip at the Cape, where the weather this morning is pristine. Shuttle flight controllers here in Houston are keeping tabs on the weather at the transoceanic abort sites in Spain as well, which would be used by Columbia's crew in the event of an engine failure early in the shuttle's climb to orbit. Morón, Spain is considered the prime transoceanic abort site today for Columbia and its crew. At launch, Columbia will be sent aloft on the collective power of its 3 liquid-fueled main engines and its twin solid rocket boosters, combining for a total of 7 million pounds of thrust. Shortly after solid rocket booster separation, Columbia's orbital maneuvering system engines will ignite for about 90 seconds, providing an assist for the shuttle and its scientific cargo heading uphill. A little less than 6 minutes into the flight, Columbia's onboard computers will command the shuttle's main engines to swivel, allowing Columbia to roll to a heads-up position above its external fuel tank during ascent. That maneuver will allow Columbia to gain more favorable communications with the tracking and data relay satellite system as it heads uphill. 8.5 minutes after launch, the main engines will be commanded to shut off, and the shuttle will separate from its external fuel tank, settling into an orbit around 150 nautical miles above the Earth, inclined 39 degrees to either side of the equator. The 7 crew members will go to work shortly after the shuttle's payload bay doors are open, activating space hab and scientific systems and unstowing gear. The blue team, pilot Willy McCool, payload commander Mike Anderson, and mission specialist Dave Brown, will begin an abbreviated 6-hour sleep period just after 1:30 p.m. Central Time as dual-shift scientific operations get underway in earnest under the watch of the red team, Commander Rick Husband, Kalpana Chawla, Laurel Clark, and payload specialist Ilan Ramon. By the way, at the time of Columbia's launch, the International Space Station and the Expedition 6 crew of Commander Ken Bowersox, Flight Engineer Nikolai Budarin, and ISS Science Officer Don Pettit, now in their 54th day in space and their 52nd day on board the station, will be orbiting over the northern Pacific Ocean south of the Aleutian Island chain as 2 mission control teams here in Houston simultaneously preside over dual spacecraft operations. So, as we near final polling for a go, no-go decision for the launch of Columbia, the Ascent team and Flight Director Leroy Kane are set to take over control of the 28th flight of Columbia and the 113th mission in shuttle program history at solid rocket booster ignition. At T-minus 20 minutes and holding, this is Mission Control Houston.
And OTC, OVCC?
Go OVCC.
Yes, sir. Set of 20 is complete. Flight room is reconfigured, and we're looking for a go to leave the flight room and egress the pad.
Stand by 1. FCO, NTD on 212 for com check.
Loud clear, on me.
Copy you the same, thank you.
Roger.
OTC CGLS 212.
Good GLS.
This is step 885 is not performed.
885 not performed. Console and PAC console, step 847, closeout crew is ready to depart. And OTC, I'll give you 848. Copy. OVCC, OTC. Safety copies 847.
Go ahead, sir.
You got to go to clear out of the FSS. Report clear.
Copy that.
And STM, I'll give you 850 to provide video tracking, please. STM copies in work, sir.
PAC copies 847.
CHGD, CTSS and JBFX verify active on channel 212 and monitor 232 for remainder of count. CHGD. CHGD on 212.
Copy, Kyle.
CGSS.
CTSS.
And JBFX.
JBFX.
ECL and EPD and C-Power Fire X pumps will be started momentarily. ECL, you copy? Copy. EPD? EPD copies. And C-Power? C-Power copy. And STM, I'll give you 1017. STM copies in work. JRPS, O2C. JRPS. Configure the MTU test set, step 862. That's complete. OTC, Houston Flight, and PTC. We're ready now for PSP deactivation on channel 232. 910.
And NTD Houston flight copies, we'll put it in work.
8:39.
So are we.
Understand.
Stand by. And attention all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the T-minus 20-minute briefing. Our launch window today opens at 15:39 GMT and closes at 18:09 GMT. Our hold time constraint will be 4 minutes 32 seconds based on start box. And any changes to our launch window or hold times will be provided as required during T-minus 9-minute hold. There are no launch window cutouts and no COLAs today. And PLT, at T-minus 5 minutes, perform APU start upon command of OTC only.
PLT, copy.
And CDR, our pad egress system is nominal, and our evac helipad today is number 8.
And CDR, copy, thanks.
And control room launch team after T-minus 20 minutes. Any problems or trends requiring countdown clock hold will be reported to the NTD on channel 212, together with a recommendation. For all manual holds after T-minus 5 minutes, the countdown clock will continue until T-minus 31 seconds, unless the recommendation to hold at the next milestone is necessary. After T-minus 31 seconds, only cutoff is available and will result in a recycle to T-minus 20 minutes. For cutoffs, the per words CGLS cutoff will be used. Our GLS milestones are as listed in the sub-step, and that concludes our T-minus 20-minute bring, and our countdown clock will resume in 1 minute and 5 seconds on my mark. Mark. And attention console operators, discontinue all LDB commands and reads during pass-ops transition.
OTC, Stevie. Would you like me to go ahead with 851? Copy.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 20 minutes and holding, and we're about 20 seconds away from resuming to count at the T-minus 20-minute mark. And as we come out of the hold, Columbia's onboard computers will transition to the terminal phase of the countdown configuration. And following this, the launch team will check the computer memory of the 5 primary computers on Columbia to make sure that they have been properly stored. Standing by now for the resumption of the count. 2, 1, and we are at T-minus 20 minutes and counting. From this point until the T-minus 31 second mark, any of the scores of console operators in the firing room can ask that the count be held if a problem is detected on the system they're monitoring. A purge of the 3 onboard cryogenic fuel cells will be soon underway. Fuel cells are the small power plants that use liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen to produce the electricity the shuttle will require in space. The data processing system engineer is confirming that the onboard computers are indeed in the process of making the transition to the terminal countdown configuration. This is about a 7-minute operation.
And CMQC, can you verify all our constraints are clear at this time?
All constraints are cleared, sir.
Okay, we copy that. Thank you very much.
T-minus 19 minutes and counting. The primary Ascent computer software is now in the primary launch program, and Commander Rick Husband will be aligning the backup flight systems to the terminal countdown configuration.
SOPS transition is complete. GPS is ready for BFS transition to Ops 101.
Copy that.
OTC CDR, go.
Yes, sir. Clear pass fault sum and take BFS to opt 1 for your checklist.
Okay, we copy. We'll put that in work.
OTC PLT, go ahead. Yes, sir. Configure pass and BFS horizontal sit displays per your checklist. In work. STM NTD step 974, deactivate pad OISD, please. Copy that, sir. What about 973? It's still in work. They're not out of the LDA. White copy. NTD CVFS. Go CVFS. Ready for BFS uplink. Copy. Houston flight. Perform BFS pre-flight uplink loading. Step 952.
Houston flight copies. We'll put it in work.
CDR, what you saying?
OTC CDR, go.
BFS stops 1 transition. Is that complete?
Yes, sir, that is complete.
Okay, at this time I'll give you go to configure contingency abort yaw steer per your checklist.
Okay, that's in work. And OTC CDR contingency abort yaw steer is complete.
Okay.
This is SRO on 212.
Go ahead, SRO.
Sir, can you give me step 976 and sequence 16?
Yeah, and just one moment. Our folks are nearly outside of the LDA.
Copy.
CWS, what you think? CWS. Configure owns RCS class C supply. Copy and work.
OTC CL212. I can give you 839, and for 840 we have 14.97.
Copy that. CDR, what you think?
OTC CDR, go ahead.
Are you available to report cabin press per your checklist?
Yes, sir, we'll report cabin press.
PLT, OTC. OTC, PLT, go ahead. Your horizontal sit config, is that complete? Not quite yet. When that is complete, that's complete, you have a go to pick up with MPS helium reconfiguration.
Okay, we do have horizontal sit config complete and picking up with MPS helium config at this time.
OTC CWS. Go. 964 ohms RCS crossfeed valves configured for flight.
OTC CDR.
CDR.
Cabin press is 14.96 on the overhead and on the spec.
Okay, copy that. And Nijon C2. CRT select switch number 3.
And that's complete.
And CRT3 major function switch SM.
And we're there, and we're looking at SM system 1, and we have a good 14.96 pressure.
Okay, copy that.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 12 minutes and counting. We're about 3 minutes away from our final built-in hold at T-minus 9 minutes. This hold will last for 10 minutes. The configuration of the cross-feed valves between the orbital maneuvering system and the reaction control system propellant tanks has been conducted. And all non-essential personnel have been cleared from the launch danger area at this time. And we are receiving verification that all contingency support operations are on board and ready for today's launch.
I'd like to pick up with step 981. Stand by 1 moment. Houston flight NTD.
NTD Houston flight 212.
Okay, uplink loads, are those complete?
Negative.
Okay, we would like to give you a go to pick up with OEX recorders with ISL. Step 981.
Flight copies 981.
You can pick those up when you're ready.
Welcome.
And JRPS NTD? JRPS? Yeah, 981 for you as well for OEX recorders. And that's complete. And ISL, you do have a go.
ECL, what you say?
Go ahead.
We're ready to close cabin vent valve, is that right?
That's affirmative.
Okay, CDR, what you say?
Go ahead, OTC.
Close the cabin vent valve.
That's in work.
All systems on 212, discontinue all non-mandatory LDB traffic for remainder of count.
NTD Houston flight 212.
OTC CDR, closed vent valves is complete.
At ECL,
Yeah, copied.
verify 845.
That's firm.
Security console NTD 212. Security console NTD 212.
Security.
Step 830, can you verify non-essentials are clear of the LDA?
Verify non-essentials clear the LDA.
Copy. Safety console 830 to you.
Copy 830 with 830 and 971 volt. I give you 972.
Okay, copy that. Thank you. And PAC, you copy? SRO, our KSE area is clear for launch. Step 976.
I copy NTD 976.
And STM, I'll give you 973. We can terminate video tracking and recording of closeout crew.
STM copies in work, sir.
And flight, your uplink load, is that complete?
NTD, I can give you 953 for the BFS pre-flight uplink load at this time.
Copy that. Countdown clocks at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. Duration of hold will be 10 minutes.
NTDSC.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when we were doing off transition, TDD was in the process of cycling the vent door 1 and 2. They didn't get the proper indications during the off transition due to we were in a valid format. They wanted to do a quick cycle on the vent door, left hand 1 and 2, going to open the purge.
Okay, and TVD, are you with us here?
Yes, TVD copies.
Okay, and OTC entity? No. Yeah, you have any constraints at this point that won't allow TVD to do their cycle of Vento 1 and 2? They just want to re-verify that they're getting right indications.
One thing, CDR, what you say?
OTC CDR, go.
Two things, need you to verify vent valves are closed.
Yes, sir, the vent valves are closed.
Okay, second thing on Charlie 2, CRT number 3, major function switch, what position is that in?
CRT train major function is in GNC.
Okay, and on CRT 3, BFS memory, that should be op 0, correct?
see System 2 on CRT3.
Yeah. DPS OTC.
DPS 212.
Yes, sir. That should be as advertised for this point in the count, correct?
Yeah, they basically have whatever they wish to have up at this point in the count. Launch trajectory is normally there, but they won't have to do it on the system. That's fine with us.
Copy that. NTD, then that's yours. Okay, and TVD, you have a go to cycle your doors, let us know the results.
Copy.
ISL NTD, is the OEX recorder activation complete? ISL NTD, and this is ISL, that's still in work. Okay, copy that.
NTD, CVFS.
Go CVFS.
The T-minus 20-minute GBC dump complete.
Okay, we copy, thank you. STM, verify OI has deactivated the pads at 990.
Come right back to you, sir.
And into the ISL. Go ISL. Yes, when you give us the go to activate the OI recorders, we're going to do that in parallel with the OEX recorder. Okay, copy that. And Houston flight entity?
NTD Houston flight.
Okay, G1 launch target uplinks or BFS, are we going to be required for those?
NTD, we do have a G1 launch target uplink load. We'll put it in work with your go.
Copy, you have a go.
And NTD, I have a LOX drainback hold time update for you.
We're ready?
Drainback hold time is 5 minutes, 16 seconds.
Copy, 5 minutes, 16 seconds.
That's a good copy.
TLT, OTC.
OTC, PLT, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Clear hardware, caution, warning, memory, verified no unexpected errors.
In work.
OTC, TVD?
No.
Yeah, I can give you step 853, and we got all good indications that time. And I would like a go on 1026.
GLS NTD on 212.
This is CGLS.
And verify countdown clock set to resume at 15:30 GMT.
That's affirmative.
Copy, thank you. CDR, OTC.
OTC.
Go ahead, PLT.
Caution, warning, memory is clear. No unexpected errors.
Okay, thank you, Willy. CDR, it's your turn.
CDR, go.
Configure CRTs for Ascent.
We'll go.
And Houston flight NTD?
NTD Houston flight.
NTD STM. So STM?
990.
Copy, thank you. Houston flight NTD?
Go.
Okay, Ascent data for crew updates. Any further for 1025?
That's affirmative. We had one update, NTD.
Okay, and before we get into that, I'd like to give you and ISL, JRPS, and flight to perform the L-15 recorder activations. ISL, you copy? ISO copy. JRPS?
JRPS copy.
Okay, and flight, that's for you, and then you can proceed with the data update.
Flight copies. Put it in work.
OTC HTD.
Go HTD.
Okay, this time we can give you step 827, no anomalies.
Copy 827. CVD OTC.
Go ahead.
You verify the payload bay flow rate is set for launch.
It's in work.
Columbia Houston with one small update for your RTLS weather selection.
And Houston, Columbia, go ahead.
Rick, for runway 15 RTLS runway, we would like close-in aim point. That will get you to 2500 at 205, and that is the only update we have for you.
Okay, we copy close-in aim point and OTC CDR.
CDR.
Roger, we'd like to update our spec 50 with close-in aim point.
Copy. And MS1 OTC.
OTC, MS1.
Yes, sir, if you would, the V10 recorder, if you'd activate that recorder.
And OTC, that's complete.
MS4 OTC.
That's complete, OTC.
Copy, 2 V10 recorders up and running. And Houston flight, any further updates for the crew?
NTD Houston flight, that's a negative on the updates. And I can give you 1010, the target uplink is complete.
Copy, thank you. PVD, NTD on 212.
That's TVD.
Okay, did you complete your cycles and get the expected results?
Yes, I did, and payload bay purge is set for launch.
Copy, SPE, NTD.
This is SPE.
Okay, and we go now with PVD's configuration and ready to proceed past T-minus 9 minutes?
Yes, we are. We're go at this time.
Copy, thank you. ISL, NTD. The site's L. Okay, recorders, OI and OEX, are we up yet? They're in work still. Okay, copy that. And into the ISL, the pre-launch configuration is done on the OEX recorder. The OI recorders are still in work. Okay, copy, thank you. And attention all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the launch status check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC, go. TBC,
go.
TTC, go. LPS, go. Houston flight.
Houston flight is go.
Mila. Mila, NTD, verify ready to resume count.
And Mila ready to resume count.
STM.
STM is go, Jeff.
Safety console.
Safety's go.
SPE.
SPE's go.
LRD. LRD go. SRO.
SRO is go. You have a range clear to launch.
Copy. And CDR.
CDR is go.
Copy. And launch director, launch team is ready to proceed?
Launch director copies. Please stand by.
Copy that. Into the ISL. Go ISL. All recorders activated. Thank you very much.
HD, OTC.
Ed.
Yes, sir. Looking for step 1049.
Launch director. And launch director 212. Yeah, launch director, the launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
Copy. I'll perform my poll at this time. Chief Engineer, Launch Director, verify no constraints to launch.
Engineering team is go, Mike.
Thank you, Charlie. KSC Safety, Mission Assurance.
KSC, SMA is go, Mike.
Copy. Payload Launch Manager.
Go.
Thank you, Bill. Range Weather.
There is no constraints to launch.
Copy. And Ops Manager.
MMT is go for launch.
Copy that. Thank you. Columbia Launch Director.
Go ahead.
Okay, Rick, if there was ever a time to use the phrase, all good things come to people who wait, this is one time. And for you and your crew, best of luck on this mission, and from the many, many people who put this mission together, good luck and Godspeed.
Oh, we appreciate it, Mike. The Lord has blessed us with a beautiful day here, and we're going to have a great mission. We appreciate all the great hard work everybody's put into this, and we're ready to go.
Copy that. NTD with that, you're clear to launch.
I copy that. Thank you, sir. And attention all personnel, the countdown clock will resume in 30 seconds.
HDD, OTC, verify step 1049.
Yes, sir, I can verify that.
The countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
GLS auto sequence has been initiated.
MTD, CBC 212. Standby 1.
PLT, OTC, connect essential buses to the fuel cells per your checklist.
OTC, PLT, that's in work.
And CBSC, looking at our winds, looks like we'd like to change our triage site to number 2. Do you concur?
Roger, we concur, yes.
Copy that. And CDR, NTD?
NTD, CDR, go.
Okay, update based on our winds, we'd like to change our triage site to number 2. And CDR, you copy?
And CDR, we copy you changing it from Site 8 to Site 2. Thanks.
Affirm.
OTC, PLT, essential buses are connected to the fuel cells.
Copy that.
Let's go for orbiter access arm recheck.
CDR, OTC.
OTC, CDR, go.
Rick, from our crew to yours, best wishes on your international mission to explore the science, peace, and potential that only space travel can offer.
Well, we thank you very much, Ray, and thanks for all the great work from your team and all the other folks here.
Yes, OTC. Start APU strip shot recorders.
Strip shot correct.
OTC, perform APU pre-start.
OTC, PLT, that's in work. OTC, PLT, APU pre-start is complete with 3 great talkbacks.
Copy that.
This is Shuttle Launch Control, and we are coming up on T-minus 5 minutes and counting. T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
Go for orbiter.
And we have a go for APU start. The auxiliary power unit activation has been reported.
APU start in work.
CDR, OTC, reconfigure heaters.
That's in work. OTC, CDR, reconfig complete.
T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. The primary objective of this shuttle mission is to conduct extensive scientific research and experimentation in space from the Space Hab double module.
APU start is complete with 3 good APUs.
Copy.
T-minus 4 minutes and counting. A final test of the flight control surfaces is now being conducted. This is a programmed pattern of movements designed to verify the readiness of the launch vehicles, of the launch engines, and other flight control systems. T-minus 3 minutes, 25 seconds, and counting. And final aero surface checks of the orbiter's wing elevons and rudder are being completed at this time. This verifies the orbiter's hydraulic systems. And next we'll see the 3 main engines be gimbaled as a final test prior to launch. T-minus 3 minutes and counting, and everything is looking good for launch this morning. All systems on board Columbia are operating with no problems reported.
LO2, pressurization.
And the gaseous oxygen vent hood will be slowly retracted away from the top of the external tank.
PLT, OTC, clear caution warning memory, verify no unexpected errors.
OTC, PLC, that's in work. We see no unexpected errors.
Columbia, for the flight crew, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
O2 flowing, thanks a million.
Select the go for each pressurization.
DDLPS, no hold, no LCC, RF glitch. We're inhibiting the redundant switch and the active steps. Okay, we copy. SPE, you copy?
SPE copy.
And you're still go.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds and counting.
We're performing our nominal pre-planned, and we are still go to continue to count. Roger, copy that.
The liquid hydrogen tank inside the external tank is reported to be at the proper flight pressures. T-minus 1 minute and counting.
1 minute.
The booster joint heaters are being deactivated at this time, and all continues to look good for launch of Shuttle Columbia from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And we're coming up on a go for our auto sequence start. And we have a go for auto sequence start. Columbia's onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. 15 seconds. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. We have a go for main engine start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Columbia with a multitude of national and international space research experiments.
Houston now controlling the flight of Columbia, the international research mission finally underway.
Roger, roll, Columbia.
Columbia now rolling on to the proper azimuth for a 39-degree inclination to orbit. Shuttle in a heads-down, wings level position for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 30 seconds into the flight, the 3 liquid fuel main engines beginning to throttle back in a 3-step fashion to 72% of rated performance, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. Columbia already 2.5 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, 4.5 miles in altitude. The main engines beginning to rev up to full throttle, 104% of rated performance.
Columbia, Houston, your go at throttle up.
We copy, go and throttle up.
The throttle up call acknowledged by Commander Rick Husband, joined on the flight deck by pilot Willy McCool, flight engineer Kalpana Chawla, and mission specialist Dave Brown. Mission specialist Laurel Clark, payload commander Mike Anderson, and payload specialist Ilan Ramon seated down on the middeck. 1 minute, 26 seconds into the flight. Columbia 10 miles downrange, 13 miles in altitude, traveling at 1,800 miles an hour. Away from solid rocket booster separation, everything looking good on board Columbia. Solid rocket booster separation confirmed. Guidance now converging. Columbia's onboard computers commanding the main engine nozzles to gently swivel, aiming the shuttle for a precise target in space for main engine cutoff. Columbia now 43 miles downrange, 35 miles in altitude, traveling 3,200 miles an hour. The propulsion officer and mission control reporting that the orbital maneuvering system engines have ignited, providing Columbia with a boost uphill for the next 90 seconds. .57 miles downrange. Everything aboard Columbia in great shape. 3 good main engines, 3 good auxiliary power units, 3 good fuel cells.
We copy, 2-engine Maroon.
That call from Capcom Charlie Hobaugh indicating that should we encounter a main engine failure, Columbia could reach a transoceanic abort site in Maron, Spain. However, all 3 main engines functioning by the book. Columbia 85 miles downrange, 50 miles in altitude, traveling almost 4,000 miles an hour. Columbia's 3 main engines draining a half a ton of fuel per second from the shuttle's large external fuel tank. Those 3 main engines operating normally. Columbia heading towards space on the first shuttle mission of the year. We're coming up on the point of negative return, where the shuttle will be too far downrange and too high in altitude to return to the launch site in the event of an engine failure.
Columbia, Houston, negative return.
So we copy, negative return.
4 minutes into the flight, Columbia already 147 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, 62 miles in altitude, traveling more than 5,000 miles an hour, on course and on time for its orbit, 150 nautical miles above the Earth. All quiet here in the flight control room. 4.5 minutes into the Columbia 200 miles downrange, traveling almost 6,000 miles an hour, 67 miles in altitude, everything looking very good on board.
Houston, press to ATO.
So we copy, press to ATO.
And Columbia, Houston, single engine, Ops 3.
Copy, single engine, Ops 3.
Those calls from Capcom Charlie Hobaugh indicating that should we lose 2 main engines, we can still make minimal orbital cutoff targets. However, all 3 main engines continue to function normally and in great shape. 3 good fuel cells, 3 good hydraulic power units. Columbia now 330 miles downrange, 70 miles in altitude, traveling almost 9,000 miles an hour as we approach the 6-minute mark into the flight.
Columbia, Houston, press to MECO and single engine Maroon 104.
Copy, press to MECO and single engine Maroon 104.
Columbia's computers now commanding the main engines to swivel again, enabling the shuttle to roll to a heads-up position above its large fuel tank, gaining more favorable communications through the tracking and data relay satellite system as it heads uphill. 6.5 minutes into the flight, Columbia 440 miles downrange, traveling more than 10,000 miles an hour. Gravity forces beginning to pick up for the crew on board. Those gravity forces will be limited to 3 Gs as we approach the point about 1 minute before main engine cutoff. Columbia in great shape, 500 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center at the 7-minute mark into the flight.
Columbia, Houston, single engine press 104 and we're expecting a nominal shutdown on all 3 engines.
Okay, we copy single engine press 104, nominal shutdown.
Columbia's main engines are starting to throttle down to limit the stress on the shuttle and its 7 crew members to that of 3 times the effective gravity. Columbia 620 miles downrange, less than a minute away from main engine cutoff. Eight minutes into the flight of Columbia, the orbiter 736 miles downrange, traveling almost 16,000 miles an hour, 70 miles in altitude, about 20 minutes before main engine cutoff, 20 seconds before main engine cutoff. The booster officer reports a nominal main engine cutoff, a perfect ascent to orbit for Columbia, standing by for external tank separation. And the external tank has been jettisoned. A perfect launch for Columbia, a perfect climb to orbit. 7 astronauts now setting off on a 16-day marathon scientific mission.
And we copy, Houston. Nominal MECO, ohms 1 not required. Thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston, Columbia in its preliminary orbit. Everything in great shape as the orbiter is now settled into an orbit about 143 nautical miles above the Earth, standing by for further activity on board.
In the post-ohms 1 procedures, everything is nominal, tail-only control not required.
Okay, we copy everything nominal, tail-only control not required.
Back here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room, the Ascent team of flight controllers led by Flight Director Leroy Kane, who have been on console since about 3:30 this morning, just presided over a flawless climb to orbit for Columbia. Kane, the second from your right at the Flight Director console, joined to his right by Capcom Charlie Hobaugh and the weather Capcom for today, Dwayne Carey. Steve Stitch on the far right of your screen, Flight Director, who will be one of the orbit shift flight directors during the STS-107 mission over the next 16 days, was the weather flight director. Although there wasn't much to talk about today with the conditions flawless both at the Kennedy Space Center and over in Spain at the Transoceanic abort sites. So a perfect climb to orbit for Columbia, a good start to a manifest that will call for 6 shuttle flights this year. The crew in its post-insertion activities as they begin to move away from the jettisoned external tank and prepare for the firing of the little maneuvering system engines about 29.5 minutes from now. That will help to circularize Columbia's orbit at about 153 nautical miles for the remainder of this microgravity science research mission. Over in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, video of today's launch of Columbia was uplinked through our KU band communications capability to the Expedition 6 crew aboard the International Space Station, Commander Ken Bowersox, Flight Engineer Nikolai Budarin, and NASA ISS Science Officer Don Pettit, able to watch Columbia's climb to orbit. An on-time launch following a flawless and uneventful countdown today from the Kennedy Space Center.
Houston, we see the MPS propellant dump complete. You are go for the ET photo maneuver.
We copy, Houston. Go for the ET photo maneuver. Thanks.
Coming up over the next couple of hours, it will be a busy time on board Columbia as the Ascent team gets the crew settled in to their orbital activities. Again, the firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines in what is known as the OMS 2 burn, essentially designed to circularize Columbia's orbit, is scheduled 27 minutes from now. Once that's completed, the crew will begin to configure some of the systems and prepare for payload bay door opening, which is scheduled about an hour and a half into the flight. Once the doors on Columbia are open to provide cooling for all of the shuttle's systems and all of the scientific gear on board.
Willy, we see good cooling on all 3 APUs. You are go for APU hide shutdown as published.
Copy, Charlie. Go for APU hide shutdown as published.
Once Columbia's doors are opened, the Ascent team will take a poll of all of the flight control positions here in the mission control room to get a go, no-go for orbital operations to keep Columbia on orbit for all 16 days for its scientific work. 2.5 hours into the mission, Laurel Clark and Ilan Ramon will preside over the activation of the Space Hab Research Double Module in the cargo bay of Columbia and the start of the activation of some of the early experiments that will be activated in support of this multidisciplinary science research flight. The blue team, pilot Willy McCool, mission specialist Dave Brown, and mission specialist and payload commander Mike Anderson, will begin an abbreviated 6-hour sleep period 4 hours into the flight just after 1:30 p.m. Central Time this afternoon, while the red team presses ahead to activate most, if not all, of the experiments on board, some 80 experiments that will be presided over in this dual-shift scientific flight in which scientific research will be conducted around the clock.
Columbia, APU hide shutdown is complete.
Really nice job on APU hide shutdown. For a big picture, we're tracking a TIG for your ohms 2 of 41:18. It may be adjusted slightly, but that's a good number to work for now. We're about a minute and a half from spreading. We'll be unable to talk to you for about 1 minute, but able to hear.
Okay, we copy preliminary TIG of 41:18 and about a minute now to spreading. Thanks.
It's a good readback.
Houston, Columbia, we'll put fasten heater activation in work.
We copy and ready for that.
bus sensors.
This is Mission Control Houston. 18 and a half minutes into the flight of Columbia on this 16-day microgravity research mission. All three auxiliary power units have now been shut down by pilot Willy McCool. All of Columbia systems in excellent shape in the early stages of this marathon scientific research flight. Again, here in the flight control room, countdown clocks ticking backward toward the firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines 22 minutes from now to circularize Columbia's orbit. That will then set the stage for the further configuration of onboard systems prior to the opening of Columbia's payload bay doors, which is scheduled just after 11 a.m. Central Time this morning.